Joanna is a survivor of exploitation and trafficking. For a long time, she lived with the weight of what happened and with the cost of staying quiet. This film isn't about sensational details. It's about the pattern, how risk factors get identified, how one decision can change the course of life, how coercion works, and what it looks like to heal. Trafficking doesn't start with chains. It often starts with access, and with a person who knows how to read vulnerability. Joanna wants people to understand this. Everyone has risk factors. No one is immune. Joanna was a dancer, gifted, driven, and like a lot of young people, she believed hard work and ambition would keep her safe. But one recommendation, framed as normal, even helpful, became a doorway into something for which she didn't even yet have language.
I walked into the number 5 Orange. It's an open air drug market, downtown east side of Vancouver, which is like Kensington in Philly or the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And I walked up to the VIP manager, which is like upstairs. And I had actually met him a couple weeks back at a club. I had chatted him, he had chatted me up, and I'd given him my phone. He didn't tell me he managed a strip club, but it was like, oh, hey, how you doing? And he goes, what do you want to work here for? And this guy is going to reappear later. And it's just so, all the heroes in my story are the people that everyone thinks are scum. Like the good guys are the one, it's completely flipped, you know? So this strip club manager, he goes, why do you want to do this? He's like, why do you want to do this? And I said this little sassy response, well, dance lessons don't pay for themselves, I said.
That moment matters, not because of a building, but because of what it represented. A system where boundaries blur fast and where predators watch for who can be pulled further. Grooming starts with access. Over a certain amount of time, the influences and changes of that access begin to feel normal. As the normalization sets in, isolation increases. Isolation is where control quietly changes hands. And when someone else holds the reins, exploitation isn't a possibility, it's the next step. Joanna describes it like a wheel. Once you're in motion, it's hard to step out. What looks like just work becomes a pipeline, not always with one person, but often with a network.
But the day and night strangers coming and pawing you, it just starts you on the wheel of it's the first cog in that downtown east side trafficking wheel.
And when systems are built to blur consent, survivors often carry the shame that was never theirs. Coercive control doesn't always look like a locked door. Sometimes it looks like pressure, manipulation, rules, money, and fear. Sometimes it looks like a script you're expected to say.
And then when you say your little spiel, they say you can touch me. See, you're giving consent, aren't you? In that moment, strip club is centered in the middle of this open air drug market, and it's across the street from the police headquarters. So that definitely influences what happened to me, right? That plays into what happened to me. This police were coming into the strip club at the time. There was a huge gang war in Vancouver. It's a legendary gang war. They're still on the news for it today, at the front page of the news in Vancouver Sun for this stuff. And this club was like ground central zero for all these organized crime groups were hanging out in this club. United Nations run it, right? It's owned, and just every single gang was in there. And then there was the crime was so bad that they created this gang crime task force. So the boys would march over from just across the street. They'd march over into the strip club with this gang crime task force. And what would happen, we were instructed, when the cops showed up, the manager would run in this room like chicken with his head cut off. Cops are here, cops are here, cops are here. And nobody was allowed to touch. So that's how I know that it was illegal.
Once a concession is made without full awareness of its cost, it can set exploitation in motion in ways that cannot be reversed. Such was the case for Joanna, whose exploitation began almost immediately after she started dancing in the nightclub.
Within 7 weeks of working at the downtown East Side strip club, I was targeted by a trafficker that was a street trafficker that had multiple victims. And he was using a real estate coercion with me. He convinced me that if I went and did this work for him and gave him 100% of my money, that he would get me a condo. So the real estate coercion was the carrot dangled in front of me for this trafficking.
After the street trafficker, Joanna describes a pattern of traffickers cycling in and out of control over her. They recognized her beauty and talents and treated those gifts as commodities. She also describes a harder truth. Exploitation can appear even in places where victims should feel protected. That theme is reflected in the CTV Vancouver News segment, which highlighted this part of Joanna's account following the arrest in a separate case of an officer who had previously been assigned to work with trafficking victims.
In an exclusive interview with CTV News, she explains how she was lured into a seedy world that she says led to an encounter with former VPD officer Jim Fisher.
For more than 15 years, this woman has kept secret a terrifying time in her life.
I honestly don't think I can survive if I stay silent longer. The silence has a cost. When I got there, it wasn't a photo shoot at all. There was a bed set up in the front entry as soon as I opened the door.
Feeling afraid and trapped, she complied.
And he starts telling me that he's a really senior RCMP officer.
In 2018, Fisher, who worked with sex trafficking victims, pleaded guilty to sexual exploitation and breach of trust. The victims were a teen girl and a young woman who were witnesses in a case.
They're kids, and it made me mad that those girls had to go through that.
As for Yulia, she says breaking her silence is helping free her from the past.
This is why survivors can be terrified to speak. People ask questions that don't understand coercion and then treat the survivor like the one who chose it. Joanna's story includes contact with people who held status, people with influence, reputation, or protection. Because there are ongoing reports and investigations, this film doesn't focus much on the names. It focuses on the pattern Joanna describes. Exploitation thrives where power can operate without consequences. The goal is to tell the truth in a way that protects the survivors. Joanna describes exploitation happening in overlapping places at the same time, where one person's access made another person's exploitation easier. This is what Joanna says happened when she caught the attention of a well-known ballroom dancing judge.
So the ballroom dance judge started very early on. It started immediately when I started at the strip club. I am working at the strip club and I see walk in, who is a famous ballroom dancer. He, for example, how famous he is, he trained J-Lo for the Richard Gere Shall We Dance movie. He walks into the strip club and he recognizes me. He walks right up to me and I'm like, and he gets to dance. So I have to dance for him. I started dancing for him immediately at that club. He loved it. It was like our little secret, right? And he's judging me at competitions. He's in the ballrooms when I go to practice, and he's there at night also exploiting me immediately. He was one of the ones that was nicer to me though, right? He's still disgusting, but it took me a long time to realize that he was disgusting also.
The ballroom dancing judge was not content to leave Joanna's exploitation within the walls of the club. After learning she was being trafficked, he seized that opportunity for himself and intensified the trafficking by moving it to his own home.
The exploitation was not limited to just the strip club for very long. Jan 30th, I started stripping at the club in November 2007. Jan 30th, I am targeted by this trafficker. He traffics me day and night for until the end of May. And now during this time, to exploit me fully also. And he has the trafficker deliver me to his townhome.
Joanna says the ballroom judge permanently tainted what had once been a pure and deeply cherished passion for ballroom dancing. She entered that world to help pay for college and her dance lessons, and it left her devastated. Every part of Joanna knew she had to escape the street trafficker.
So I knew I had to leave Finesse. I was going to get away from him, and I thought I had, because I had all these protective factors of like, my family was giving me some strength, and I had my education, and some of it was just luck that came along. I had a chance to get another property that was in my name that he didn't have his grubby mitts on. So like that in a sense was like my new safe house. He made me pay him a leaving fee. I asked for my freedom and he wouldn't let me go until I paid him a special leaving fee that was separate from all the money that I had to give him, that was separate from my quota. So and also these things are set up by the traffickers, so most girls would never be able to pay the leaving fee, right? Because you also have to pay your quota. I contacted one of the gangsters that I knew from the number 5 Orange, named Mikey, and this is the hero being the scum again. And he called that trafficker for me, and I never heard from him again for like years.
Joanna wishes her story ended here, but predators continued to surface, including an organized crime boss tied to a record label, an infamous figure on the run, and even well-known names in Hollywood.
I'm in this period where I'm extremely vulnerable now, right? But I'm kind of safe in a way. I don't think I'm being trafficked anymore. So I was getting my freedom back, and I get recruited on the street by a very well-to-do, handsome man, younger-ish, older than me, probably in his early 30s, because I was in my early 20s. I was 22, and recruits me on the street, but in the form of a relationship, right? Like, we're gonna have, and I was like, maybe I'll try having a relationship. So we have a date that was fairly normal. And then the second time that we have a date, I disclose, I start crying. I start to cry, and I say, I don't want you to pimp me. Please don't pimp me. I just had like a panic attack, right? Like, and I cried to him about, I said, I've been trafficked, please don't take my money. I got so afraid he was going to start, because they use sex as a weapon against you, right? So I was so afraid that now I'd let somebody in intimately that he was going to start taking all my money. But he walks out in the living room of my place, and he says to me, hey, I got a guy you need to meet named Capone. I want you to meet this really rich guy. And I'm literally still like wiping the tears off my face. I'm just stunned and vulnerable. And within a week or so, I meet this Capone. And Capone sets up a rape and trafficking day for us. And now during this time that I'm being targeted by this second network, I also receive the email from the detective back when I was with the first trafficker. I received email photos, horrific photos or unsolicited. And in some of the photos you can see like I'm bleeding and I have tears in my eyes. And so this is all happening while I'm being targeted by this second network. So I'm extremely traumatized and terrified at this point. And Capone discloses to me, we're eating lunch, and he tells me he's a trafficker, an international trafficker. He can buy people from China. He offers me a person for $40,000. So I know at that point I'm in the custody of another network.
When trauma is ongoing, the mind protects the body in ways that are hard to explain unless you've lived it. Joanna describes dissociation. parts of herself compartmentalizing, carrying what no one should have to carry.
I'm taken to Capone's. He starts to rape me. And he puts his hands around my neck to strangle me. And this is a big dude. He puts his hands up around my neck to strangle me. And by the grace of God, I laughed in his face while he did this. My resistance was to just laugh in his face. And he loosened his grip on me. I have a protective mechanism that I call Larry, which is like the person within me that doesn't get trafficked. That's like Larry popping up there, right? Laughing in this monster's face for a moment. And this Chinese woman pops out. So there's been another person there the whole time. And I realized like I'm being shown another victim, right? And she did a lot of like love bombing and ego stroking to me. And he told me to come back in Gucci and bring more girls. Next time I want another girl. So I have to go recruit. This went on for, several more occasions that were increasingly violent. Capone eventually did what they call asset stripping of me. So I ended up giving Capone the home that I was in. That seemed to make him happy. He stopped raping me then and forcing me to recruit other women for him then. The owner that I was leasing it from contacted me after they hadn't paid several months' rent and said that when they went in, it looked like a crime scene. There was semen and blood and used condoms everywhere. I mean, whatever, I don't know what was going on there, obviously horrible things, right? But it also sent me a message, pretty loud and clear, to shut up. I just hid after that, after the Capone network. I mean, they couldn't get anything else out of me, so I didn't see him again.
Survival responses are not personality quirks. They are evidence of endurance. While Joanna was experiencing exploitation and trauma from unexpected places, she also says that she found compassion and caring advice in unexpected places as well.
At this point, I meet one of America's Most Wanted at the number 5 Orange. And Tobechi Anwahara, I did not know, he didn't introduce himself to me as that, but he's a con man, he's a fraudster that's at the time on the top 10 FBI's Most Wanted. He's living, he's on the run, hiding in Vancouver. He seemed like a nice guy, because wouldn't somebody like that seem pretty nice after all the horrible stuff I'd been through? This kind of hierarchy or transgression of like street trafficking to like international trafficking, you kind of pulverize the victim and get everything you can out of them, break them physically, and then you'll see them when they can't, because you stop making as much money, right? You do. Your money, unless you're moved all around, but like a lot of victims will stop making, because they develop a drug problem, like the wheels start falling off after 6 or 7 months of that physical abuse and sexual abuse alone, right? So it's the perfect time for fraudsters to enter, because wouldn't that seem like a dream, to just wash the money through your account and not have to do horrible things for it? He never trafficked me. He never tried to move. He asked me to move $50,000 through my bank account. This is not, and I said no. And here's more heroes being the scum being the heroes. Because when I said no to him, he respected that. He didn't use violence against me. He didn't lie to me, use trickery. He didn't use abuse to try to get his way. He just stopped. He never disclosed who he was to me until he was already gone. But I'm thankful for him telling me to, he said, you need to go home, and you're not meant to be in these streets. You need to go home to your family. You need to finish college. So one of America's Most Wanted told me that. Wonderful advice.
Joanna's remaining encounters of sexual exploitation involve recognizable names and faces of some of Hollywood's not so finest individuals. In order to preserve the current and ongoing investigative efforts, Joanna is refraining from sharing those names publicly at this time. Joanna did eventually get out of the cycle of trafficking, and the remainder of her story is focused on healing and recovery. Leaving isn't one moment. Joanna describes it as a process: steps forward, steps back, fear, threats, and the exhausting work of trying to become a whole person again.
After I escaped Capone's trafficking network by giving him my property and keeping my mouth shut, I hid out with Tobechi for a lot of that year, and I got increasingly reclusive. I worked every single day and just focused on ballroom nearly every day, and stayed competing at a really high level and stayed training with like world-renowned coaches. So that was a real blessing for me. I worked, stayed as drug-free as possible, given the daily trauma that I had to go through. I actually listened to the advice of Tobechi to, get out of the streets and go home to my family and go back to college. Actually, by 2010, I was back home, and I was working on a clothing project. I taught myself to sew. And I had this little fashion week project going on, so things were pretty good. But the exploitation doesn't just stop unless you have a lot of help. Like, unless you have services and professionals helping you, it's going to be really hard to get yourself out of it, which is what I was doing. So during that period, when I had withdrawn from the downtown east side trafficking market, the Vancouver trafficking market, I was targeted by a military member for exploitation. The old "I'll help you out with college fees and stuff" type of thing. And he ended up stalking me and being charged. This was a very high-ranking military member in uniform, walked around Vancouver in uniform, and he stalked me for 3 years. So you see that it's so hard to extract yourself when you're constantly being pursued. I met my husband in 2011, and of course this stalker was not too happy about that. That's when things escalated with him, and my safety was really at risk, and I left the country. I finished college and I left the country. The military member targeted my college, my final college practicum even. So I left the country, and I was heavily dissociated, I would say, for the next 7 years. I barely spoke, really, but I just continued to focus on art, and I had my healthy relationship, and I got a chance to be quiet and be normal and just think about things and not be exploited day in and day out. And slowly I came back to being whole again. And then I had my kids. Then that opened up a whole new can of worms, because I realized what happened was so wrong, and I didn't want it to happen to them. I didn't want it to happen to any other person's kid. And I found out that trafficker lived in the area that I grew up in, and it really bothered me. And I started reporting to law enforcement, and I realized it wasn't just him. I mean, why am I just going after this guy if, according to the legal description, this person trafficked me, this person trafficked me, this person trafficked me? So I reported them all. And we're still in that period. But in the meantime, I've fought to find myself, to find the person who I was before I was trafficked. And that's been in the form of making music or riding horses and being with my children, being a mom. But it's not easy. And I want other people out there to know that they don't have to carry it all on their own, and that they can come forward They can hold people accountable. And we will help you. People will help you. It's not easy, but it's easier than continuing to carry the burden on your own.
And even after exploitation stops, the nervous system doesn't just forget. Healing becomes a deliberate environment. Safe people, stable rhythms, truth, and time. One of the strongest themes in Joanna's materials is reclamation, using art to regain agency. Not being used, not being coerced, being celebrated for talent without exploitation.
You were always there. When you came to me, there was judgment in the air. I'd lost all my friends. I'd been looking everywhere. A simple act of love was found. You put me back on solid ground. When you came to me, you pulled me out of my despair.
She describes something survivors rarely get: a positive cycle, healthy collaborators, dignity, and room to breathe. In another reflection, Joanna shows a photo she titled, "Never Be Famous." It's not a slogan, it's a boundary, a survivor redefining what success means after being treated like an object. This is the part people don't always show. What comes after survival? Not perfection, not a clean ending, but a life built intentionally. A nervous system learning peace again. A person learning to inhabit her own body, her own voice, her own future.
Like a warm winter breeze.
If there is one message Joanna wants to leave you with, it's this. Traffickers look for risk factors. They look for isolation. They look for access. And they often hide behind normal things: opportunity, money, validation, a helpful suggestion. This film is her refusal to disappear.